Hello everybody, this is Shady, and obviously it's now October. This is the spooky month, and I thought for the first time ever on this channel, a premiere, I'm going to talk about a movie. I'm a huge horror movie fan. I pretty much like every type of horror movie. But one of my absolute favourites, an absolute classic in my opinion, is Takeshi Miike's Audition. This is obviously the incredible Blu-ray. And this is, without a doubt, one of my favourite horror movies. Here's my cat, by the way. She's going to be dipping in and out, making appearances. But yeah, so Audition it's one of those it was the first kind of infamous horror movie to come out of Japan. It's pretty much, obviously, first part of this video, I'm going to try to not spoil anything. Going to try to, because obviously I want you guys to watch it for yourself. And then obviously I'm going to, probably the second half will be more of a spoiler type of video. But yeah, this was, like I said, it's one of the first sort of infamous movies to come out of Japan. And yeah, it got a bit of notoriety outside, internationally. Obviously Takeshi Miike has directed tons of movies. Obviously you probably know Dead or Alive. He did a whole trilogy of those movies. Ichi the Killer, Gozu, just to name a few, Happiness at the Katakuri's. He's done so many movies. He's a director who originally did a lot of, he started off doing a lot of direct-to-video stuff. I think there's a different name for it in Japan, and he's almost like, I guess you could say, he's someone who massively inspired Tarantino as well with this sort of exploitation stuff. His movies are they do a lot of extremes, and they're usually very bloody, and they deal with a lot of things about Yakuza and, you know, different themes like that. But like he says himself, they're more like movie Yakuza. So, but yeah, so this movie, I'm going to give a brief overview of the plot and then really go into it. But yeah, so why I really like this movie, or the plot itself. So the opening scene, we see this husband whose wife has just died. I believe it's in labour, and basically, yeah, he's without her anymore. I don't think it's in labour actually, but she dies and he's just left with his son. And then we kind of skip forward quite a few years. Obviously I think his son was just a kid at the time, and now he's sort of a teenager. I'm assuming maybe 15 or 16 or something. So yeah, it's probably been a good 10 years or so. He's been alone, not really gone with anyone again. But he has a friend who's a movie producer, and he basically says, oh, yeah, I think you should meet someone. I think it's probably the best thing for you. And, you know, I'm gonna basically, we'll do some auditions for a show. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be real. We're not actually doing a show. You know, we could just say the show's been cancelled, but we'll do these auditions, we get all these women, and then, you know, hopefully you can get introduced to one. We can just say you're like a producer on the show or something, and then that's the way you can find a woman. A little creepy, obviously, but yeah, still he's trying to help his buddy out, I guess. And he basically, he goes through all of these files of these women, and then we have this great montage where there's all these different women, and where they're talking about little things in their life, and then he has like no interest, and then his friend seems to think, you know, things are going a bit weird here. But then basically he finds this file of this one girl, and he's just captivated by her. I think it's suggested that she's a bit closer to his wife. I think she also looks a little bit like his wife. And then she's the last girl we see. She seems very sort of reserved and shy. And then there's this complete snap with him. So he has no interest in the other girls. And then he just keeps asking these questions, because at first it's just his friend, but now it's him. And he's just like asking her a million different questions. And then, yeah, eventually he asks her out for, you know, to a cafe, and then they start a relationship. And then obviously, you know, things don't quite seem, you're not quite sure. She seems a bit too perfect. And basically, they end up going out to to some sort of resort or something, or I think it's like a cabin or something for this sort of weekend. And then they consummate the relationship, and then he wakes up and she just disappears, and he doesn't know where the hell she is. And then the second half of the movie, because that's only the first half, so it plays almost like quite a standard love story almost, very sort of, this sort of a sweet love story. And then the second half, she disappears, and then he's kind of trying to look for her, and it becomes almost like an investigation movie or something. It's really interesting. And then he's basically trying to follow all these clues of everything she's told him and everything, and it becomes very interesting. And like I said, yeah, things aren't quite what you think they are with her, and yeah, it's all really cool, and that's really the aspect of the movie I really like the most. But obviously, like I said, this is only the first half, where the non-spoiler thing, that's about as much as I'm going to say. So if you haven't watched the movie, I suggest picking it up and finding it. Obviously this is the Blu-ray. This was the Arrow video release. I think this is the main one you can find. I'm not sure about any other ones. There's a DVD. I think there might even be a Criterion release. I've not even researched that. I think I'm just making it up. But yeah, it's a great movie, and pick it up. Okay, so like I said, that's the first half of the review. So yeah, go watch the movie if you want to. And I'm just going to assume you've watched it at this point. So obviously, let's now get into the plot itself. So, not the plot, the spoilers. So, obviously he, while he's investigating, it turns out a lot of the clues and stuff she gave, most of them were kind of lies. And it turns out that she has kind of a dark past. So basically what happens is, she kind of, she says she apparently worked at some restaurant or something, and you find out this place has been closed for ages, and that the owner went missing, and all that they could find was his tongue and 3 fingers, I think it was. Yeah, and then you also find out that, he goes sort of scouring in the past, finds out the person who sort of taught her ballet and all sorts of things. And then yeah, it turns out that there's this really, the movie starts getting really kind of grotesque, and there's a lot of real, I think you need a bit of a tolerance for gore and blood for the second half of this movie. So it turns out that she basically was tortured by this ballet teacher when she was a kid, and she basically has eventually sort of kind of taken out on different men, because what happens is she finds out that the whole thing was just some sort of game, or it was a setup to sort of meet her. So she's kind of under this impression that he's some sort of sleazeball who just tries to get with women and does all this sort of just sleeps around or whatever, which isn't the case obviously. And then there's basically all these reveals about her, and you find out that guy who went missing in the bar, she's got him trapped in some sack, and there's this really disgusting scene. These are some of my favorite moments, by the way, where he's in the sack, he comes out, he's got his feet are missing, he's got the fingers missing from his hands, he's got no tongue, I can't remember if his eyes are missing, and she vomits in this dog bowl, puts it down, and he eats the vomit. It's disgusting. But yeah, like I said, you need a strong stomach for this movie. And then there's the bit where he he finds out about the instructor, and that he was basically abusing her. She has all these burns down her leg, and that she's not at all who he thought he was, or who she thought he was. And then basically she breaks into the house, and she basically injects him with this sort of nerve serum stuff, so he can't move, he's completely paralyzed but can still feel pain. And then she slowly tortures him, she has these sort of like long needles she likes to put inside of him. So there's like, she puts them in his body, and as she's slowly putting them in, turning, she goes, kitty, 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 kitty. That's like one of the famous things. But I think that means like, it's meant to be like a cute sound, like slowly or something. I'm not sure what it means, but yeah. And then she pretty much slowly tortures him, and she's kind of looking to kill him, obviously. She ends up like cutting off one of his feet, and then eventually what happens is the son breaks in, or comes home, sorry, he doesn't break in because it's his home, and he ends up kind of fighting her off, and then I think she falls down the stairs, she snaps her neck, and like her head is kind of turned, and then she says like last words to him, like, do you love me, or something like that. It's really haunting. And yeah, that's pretty much the end of the movie. But yeah, to get into a little bit more of it, so obviously there's a few really interesting things in the movie. So as he's being tortured, we see a lot of these sort of strange scenes. There's one where he's in this restaurant. There's a scene where he's talking to her, and she's basically like talking about her past to him, and yeah, this is very strange, because I'm not sure if this is like something he just blocks out, and like I think they're trying to make the point maybe that these signs were clearly always there, that there was something wrong with her, or she wasn't who he wanted him to be, and he just had this idealized version of her in his head because he was lonely, and she kind of reminded him of his wife. And then there's also, you see scenes with the her piano instructor, or ballet instructor, sorry, him playing the piano, and then like burning her, and then she like chops off his head with the wire, because she has this kind of like sort of chicken wire thing, whatever you call it, where she uses to cut off his foot. And yeah, it's kind of messed up. And then there's also this other bit where randomly he wakes up in that in the bed next to her when they're in when they go out to that cabin. So there's also this really interesting theory about where the whole thing, that whole torture sequence and everything, is actually a dream, and in fact he's, you know, that whole, it's like a nightmare, sorry, where he's thinking to himself, you know what, I don't actually really know this girl, and I'm just sort of, it's just because she's a bit of a younger girl and blah blah blah, I'm just interested in her, maybe I should take my time and step back a bit. So that's another thing to look into, yeah, because it gets quite surreal in those places, and I think that aspect of it is something that you will probably enjoy, or only the aspect I did enjoy anyway. And yeah, the thing I really love about the movie though is just the fact that, you know, that first half really is such a perfect setup. I just love the fact that it doesn't really, you know, you could put this movie on, you know, just don't show them the cover. If you put this movie on and let someone see it, they would have no idea it's actually a horror movie. You know, that first half really sets itself up as a pretty standard sort of love story, and then it just hits you after that that scene when she disappears, and then it becomes that more of a gory kind of crazy horror movie. Yeah, and it's just I think there's very few horror movies that do that. You know, I think back to you know, the Evil Dead remake. Even though I like it, there's one thing I really hated about that was there was that early section in the movie where, you know, they show you they have to have the scene where they kill the Deadite, and it kind of spoils that tension early on. Or another one like The Thing, if you've seen that, where there's just that random opening sequence where there's the alien ship flying off. I don't know if that was in the original cut, but that again, that ruins a lot of the tension of the early part of the movie. And I think, you know, the best horror movies, they keep you guessing, and they sort of, you know, trick you in a way, and they build up that tension. Another great example, if you guys have seen the movie The Witch, that's such a great horror movie. It might be one of my favorites because you know, it's basically, most of the movie you're thinking, is this just some, you know, this is really just more of a family drama or something, and then it kind of hits you with those horror elements, and then it shows you, yeah, you know, I don't want to spoil that movie, but just an example. And yeah, it's really up there as one of the greats. It's one of my favorites. Thing is, this was actually based off a book. I think it was a pretty standard book, just a the basic plot is the, you know, guy meets a girl and then she doesn't turn out to be who he thinks he is. But yeah, Mike really, he elevates this in a way to make it a little bit deeper. Like I said, there's a few ways of reading this movie. Like I was saying, you can see it as, you know, a warning to not just jump into relationships with people. Take time, you know, don't just think about, you know, just because you're lonely, you know, doesn't mean you have to be blind or whatever. You know, just more of a warning to take your time. Don't just have preconceived notions of people. Then there's also the other aspect with her character, where you can see as almost like, you know, it's almost like a female empowerment sort of element to her, where she's kind of getting revenge on these men who have kind of, you know, been kind of just seeing her as an object in a way. Because obviously the bar owner, I think, there was this, I think he was married and there's a suggestion that he was having a fling with her or something, or thinking he'd take advantage of her, that's why she killed him. And then there's the whole guy, the piano ballet teacher. I keep calling him piano teacher. He's playing a piano while she's dancing, so that's why I say that. And yeah, there's the whole aspect where it's like, you know, he abused her when she was a child, so she got her revenge killing him. And then obviously this guy, even though he's kind of the protagonist and seen as a good guy, really it's kind of scummy what he's doing. You know, him and his mate kind of came up with this whole idea just to meet random women so he could, you know, he kind of meets under false pretenses, and that's where the relationship starts, like pretending that he's something to do with his production, and they had never had any intention of making this movie. Yeah, it's really great anyway. One of my favorite movies, horror movies ever, and definitely track it down. It was on Prime at some point, and I don't think it's available there anymore, so you're gonna have to actually pick up a copy. Not too cheap. This cost me a tenner. Another really awesome thing is this has like a reversible cover. I think Arrow Video do this for all this, so I think that's the one of the posters. I think that was like, that I think was the international poster. I think that was the Japanese poster or something. But yeah, they do awesome releases. There's tons of great special features in there as well. So, and yeah, another thing, obviously, if you do like this movie, there's this great channel, I think they call it like Cinema Nippon or something. They did a brilliant video on this, much better than what I could do. So definitely give that one a listen or watch. And yeah, have a great Halloween anyway. Yeah, and this is just one of my first sort of forays into movie reviewing, I guess. I'd like to do a few more of these anyway at some point. Yeah, anyway, have a great day and catch you in the next one.